My guest in the Nimataion today is Philip Carr-Gomm, and together we're spinning a yarn. Philip, it's lovely to have you here. Lovely to talk with you again. We've met in 2016, I believe, for an interview in Graz, and we had lots in common. And even then we talked about stories.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, it's good to be with you, Bernhard.
Thank you so much. So what has been your favorite story as a child?
Well, there were a number, but the one that stands out for me, when you ask me, are the Narnia stories.
Oh.
And, and these are stories about children who are playing, and they go into a wardrobe. I don't know if you know this, if you have these in Germany, but or Austria, but you go into a wardrobe and then push the clothes apart and you're in another world like that. And I was so thrilled by this idea that you could go from one world to another world that I used to even climb into wardrobes at home when I was a kid.
As you do.
As you do. And I would kind of be aware of the fact that I had to do something with my consciousness. So I wouldn't just climb in and push. I would climb in and, I suppose, pray in my childlike way that it could be true, and then put my hands forward, and then of course be disappointed that it would reach the back of the wardrobe. And of course, I think the reason why a story like that is so powerful is because it's reflecting a very deep truth, which those of us interested in magic and in exploring consciousness are aware of, which is that you can do that. That there is a way in which you can enter into other worlds.
Yes, absolutely. I forgot to introduce you. You're a psychologist, a psychotherapist, a druid, and the former chosen chief of the Order of Bards, Ovids, and Druids. And all of these have that in common, don't they? To go beyond in another realm. And
absolutely. I can sort of trace a thread from reading stories like the Narnia stories right the way through to the present day. For instance, now after I was leading the Order of Bards, Ovids, and Druids for 32 years, and then I retired last year and handed my position on to somebody else. And I'm now working for 3 institutes, which reflect my interest in psychology and spirituality. And each of those institutes, if I look at it through the lens of the Narnia stories, they're all working with the same idea. So the first one I'm working for is the Sophrology Institute. And sophrology is a method of working with consciousness to go deeper, to go beyond, to go to become more complete, if you like, And then I'm working for the Institute of Psychosynthesis, and psychosynthesis is in a similar way. And you also use visualization in psychosynthesis, as in sophrology, to explore different levels of consciousness. And then I've been doing some work for the Institute, the Synthesis Institute in Holland, which works with the use of psilocybin for the treatment of depression and of helping people to change their awareness to enrich themselves. So they're all the same theme, if you like.
Yeah. It's I just remembered when we did our interview a few years back, you told me that when in London and meeting Ross Nichols, your mentor, in the subway, you tried to glimpse pathways to other worlds in this underground world.
Yes.
So yeah. That's a theme that accompanies you throughout your whole life.
It is actually, yeah. I hadn't thought of that, but yes. Well, what I used to do in the underground because I traveled from as a sort of fairly young child, probably from the age of 11, right, till I was 18. I was always going to school on this U-Bahn, which is a very it's a very material thing, isn't it? It's a very kind of ugly, smelly thing. You're in this underground system. And I used to imagine, I used to think that if you can travel to another world, if you can choose the most difficult environment to do it in, and then if you can do it in the most difficult environment, then if you have all the advantages of beautiful nature and meditating on it, but if you can with your consciousness, you can go deep, even in this kind of environment, then you would be successful, you know.
Did you succeed?
Well, I suppose in the underground, not in the sense of, that was more, I think, encouraging the world of imagination, because there are levels to this, aren't there? So you can sit in the underground and you can imagine fantasies of, you know, a dark tunnel that the train goes past, and you imagine that there are elves and goblins who live there, or, you know, and of course, later when I became older and I learned that in New York, there are whole communities of people living in these tunnels. It's another world of strange, you know, business. So it was more about developing the imagination. I think in terms of actually having otherworldly experiences, then I think it's actually quite hard to do that in the underground. You do need the advantage of, you know, somewhere comfortable to lie down and so on, you know.
Yeah. But the imaginal world is everywhere around us.
Yeah.
And we can enter it with so many methods.
Yes.
And
yes.
yeah.
And that the idea of magic, enchanting, you know, this idea of enchanting, the magical perspective is saying, why not enchant your world? So even if you're sitting in a train in an apparently very ordinary kind of environment, imagine that it's full of enchantment and mystery and, you know.
Yeah. Philip, thank you so much for letting us be part of an enchanted world.
Thank you. Lovely.
Looking forward to see you again.
Okay.
As always, links to your websites are in the show notes. And yeah, have a great day.
And you too. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay. Bye.